What is up, guys?
Good evening.
I like the background already off the bat, looking nice. Nice aesthetics. Nice.
This is the new studio. So I just recently moved myself. So it's not exactly where it needs to be yet, but it's a work in progress.
I'm
Very
liking it,
sweet.
Michael. It's looking good, bud.
Thank you.
Agreed. I'm moving myself. I'm right in the process. This will be the last time you'll see this wall behind me. Hopefully, I'll have some creative stuff going next couple of weeks. Looks nice, though, man. Welcome you guys to the show.
Thank you.
Guys, we got Michael and Mark today with the Player 54 podcast. Great crew. Been following these guys for a while now, back when I was still just an XFL fan. A lot of episodes, guys. What are you on? Episode 84 now is what I got. Is that correct?
It's what just dropped. Yeah, it's crazy. Mark, I mean, you've been on 14, I think is when 14 episodes.
About 14, yeah. So, you got to give credit to Michael there, sticking with this week in and week out and really getting the content out there. It's pretty incredible that he's able to do that. So he does definitely the bulk of the work.
Yes, sir. I mean, hey, it is what it is. We all do it for the love, so I understand perfectly. Believe me. I've only been on this grind for a short time, so I've got much respect for guys like y'all that have been pursuing it for quite a bit.
Well,
so,
guys,
guys,
go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. Let's get back to you guys towards the end. We want to talk more about you. Right now, let's just flash forward to some XFL stuff, just basic things that have went on. I'm sure you guys are all aware. We got the showcase events that just passed by. Now, we got the combine coming up also. I'm going to pull this up on the screen so people can see it at the house. Guys, while I'm doing that, I mean, any thoughts on the combine so far? Just St. Louis, Washington in general? I mean, I've got a few points, but I don't have anything, fine-tuned.
Have at it, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to see them have these in the cities, right? In the host town, the cities like Washington, D.C. and St. Louis, to really be able to promote the XFL and the teams there. So I think it's great that they're doing that. It's a little bit different than kind of having one in Hawaii and, whatnot. And I know they got a couple of them that are, outside of the cities that they play in. But I'd like to see that. And that's a great addition to them progressing during the off season.
Agreed.
I mean, as far as these showcases, it's very important. It's one thing to find talent and do it behind closed doors. It's another thing to, kind of do it so that we know that it's happening, which I think is very important for any alternative professional football league because of the stigma or the history hasn't always been on any of the league sides. Most of them did not get past year one. If they got year 2 or 3, then okay. But it's kind of those things they need to show that they are business as usual, right? And because we have so many people that latch on to every little bit of negative information and they're putting nails in the coffin already. So I think it's very important to see business as usual, and that's what it is. It's football, and these are football activities, and that's what matters, not announcing new partnerships and whatnot, which are still good, but it's the football that matters, and that's what's really good to see these events happening.
Well, just to add on here a little bit, these showcases help obviously with talent, right? And trying to find talent and to kind of give people that aren't going to get that opportunity to showcase their skills. Another thing they do though is they kind of create a fan base a little bit of the people that go to these showcases, right? They're going to be interested in what the XFL does after this. They're going to be interested in, hey, did the guy next to me get a tryout? Or, that guy looked really good and maybe they see him play. So this gets the XFL out there person to person marketing it, and it could create a fan base because these people love football. They're trying out for it. So they're going to also probably consume the content. So I think it's great to have these on both ends, right? Looking for talent, but then also growing their fan base with this. It may not be, reaching 1 million people, but person by person every year, that kind of grows a little bit. And these are young, influential, young men that are trying out. So I think it served a couple of purposes that we don't just quite see, right?
Understood. Yeah, I mean, in St. Louis, you saw a big community involvement. I know a lot of the fan groups, X-Fan Show, they were bigly involved in what was going on there, just supporting the guys. I know one of the tailgates fed the guys as well. I found that was pretty interesting. In terms of DC, I'm sure they had something similar, but I mean, I just didn't hear about it, and I can't find anything. So let me find this back to.
With St. Louis too. Sorry, man. With St. Louis, it was great to see AJ McCarron, be the face again of. He's probably going to become one of the faces of this league, and it was great to see him there talking to the participants and really kind of marketing the XFL. So they're leveraging what they have, already inside the XFL. To kind of promote it. And then he did, there were a couple social media interviews I saw with him, and there may have been some local interviews with him as well. So it was great to see him promote the XFL as well.
Yeah, he was highly involved, and he had some pretty good motivational speeches there that they clipped together that sounded, I mean, he was into it. He also had a youth camp. I saw some highlights from that. I'm not sure if that was a similar time or at the same date, but it seemed pretty interesting from just looking at it.
Again, if these players are participating with youth camps and they're in the XFL, you're building a fan base, one person at a time, right? One kid at a time. And that's how you build a base here. And that's how you build a league and a fan base. It just doesn't happen overnight like everybody thinks it does, right? It's person by person, one city block by city block, that's how you build it.
Yes, sir. Community engagement is going to be real big for the success of this, no doubt. All right, going forward, guys, I mean, did you have any participant numbers? I was trying to find any kind of official media stuff about this. Just curious.
Yeah, the St. Louis Battlehawks Twitter account posted that there were 300 participants.
Awesome.
But let's kind of reel this back a little bit. I don't want to go to negative town, but if we just take a look, everything but Atlanta and St. Louis actually sold out as far as participants. So according to reports, and even the XFL themselves, they were reporting someplace between 75 and 100 empty spots that appear not to have been utilized. And at St. Louis, anyway, I don't know what that number actually was at Atlanta. But everything else, if you look at the schedule moving forward, is sold out. So that's encouraging. It just seems like, unfortunately, there were some missed opportunities for several players that are always looking for that platform, that opportunity just to showcase themselves. It's unfortunate.
Understood. I mean, there was a cost associated with this. I mean,
absolutely.
I read about it. You got reimbursed upon getting entry to the actual XFL, but I mean, that's a lot of money for a normal average Joe who's just working, trying to make it, especially right now. It's understandable.
Well, I think the dollar amount does seem like a hurdle for some people that I talk or chat back and forth in my DMs all the time with players. And they're always looking for, what do I have to do? And I'm always sharing information. And this is stuff that people don't see, on social media or, in a podcast, on a video cast, the work that we're doing to help players behind the scenes. And I'm always telling them there's a fee. And I know that some of these guys are sleeping on the couches of friends right now. They don't have their own place, but they're grinding, they're working.
Yes, sir.
And it's difficult. But anything worthwhile is going to be difficult. And the league is only putting this dollar amount there. And obviously it's tied to ANC as well, because they just don't want any average person rolling up on a bicycle like, hey, I'm here. I'll catch a couple balls today. They want people that have actually been training, that legitimately think they have a shot. And like any one of us, we invest into our professional careers in a way to be able to continue to feed ourselves and house ourselves and clothe ourselves, right? So in some way, I think the XFL is like, this is kind of something what you have to do in order to try to be that professional. So bad stigma maybe, but I think it's kind of necessary just to make sure you don't have some random guy would be like, you know what, I can go try for that. So I'm getting off the couch today. I'm just going to go in there and see what I could do. You know, I get it. So.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You know,
I mean, I've heard it as well. I mean, most of these guys are driving in and having to stay as well. So, I mean, I've actually heard some of the same comments. I'm sorry, Mark, go ahead.
No, absolutely. It reminds me of when I was trying to break into, coaching as well. I mean, I would go to clinics and find, tell somebody, hey, can I stay in your room? I'll sleep on the floor, I'll be quiet, and things like that. So, I mean, I've done it when I was a graduate assistant. Coach, I slept on a futon for 2 years, so, I mean,
Sure.
you make sacrifices, you kind of know what you're getting yourself into a little bit. Yeah. And tell me this, I don't know if either one of you know this. What about agents? Are the agents covering some of the costs sometimes for these players if they're,
sure.
Close to being in there?
I'm sure. I've heard a few mention agents, but I don't know the actual legitimacy of, what's going on,
This time around, I'm not aware with those conversations. I know with the first set of showcases leading up to 2023 season, there were some players that shared that the agencies were kind of helping them with opportunities, finding the opportunities to participate in. So there wasn't necessarily a financial commitment. There were some that were actually putting together training opportunities where they were getting them trainers and whatnot. So I think it's a mixed bag when it comes to that. I don't know if they're taking care of hotels, flights, because, I won't get into sharing names, but some of the guys said they were 100% on their own flights and hotels and stuff. So I think it's probably more of them are on their own. Maybe the agents are helping them facilitate the paperwork and trying to make sure they got all the right film and stuff to get into these events. But I think there's very few that probably are getting assistance, and probably because this is not NFL money. So I can understand that, and agents probably might be a little bit more leery actually ponying up money on something that's probably not as much of a return on investment.
No doubt. Well, guys, what do you think about the combine? Have you heard any big names that we should look out for there? I mean, anybody that's worthwhile that we should really be watching and paying attention to?
Okay, I'll go. So today the X-Fan show had Lakobe Tucker,
awesome,
the left tackle out of Missouri Southern State University. My understanding is this guy is a beast in every sense of the word beast. I mean, his reach is 7'1.25", something like that. I guess he can essentially just manhandle people. How somebody like this did not get to the National Football League tryouts is sitting here at an XFL showcase is just really baffling. And I know I'm kind of taking the low-hanging fruit here, but, we don't have a whole lot of people that we know that are in the combine yet. As far as we're learning that this time around, they are inviting some people on site, on scene, as they're seeing these guys like you're at the combine. And my understanding is about 8 players were already committed to going to the combine here, just a couple weeks. So, I mean, that's good to know, where last time around, last year, we weren't necessarily seeing that. We didn't know that. Everything was a little bit more hush, but now we're seeing things. So it's a little bit more encouraging. I just like to know who some of these other players are. I mean, you're seeing some players and sharing their invites, that screenshots of them, like Aaron Nelson and whatnot, guys that I didn't know previously. And that's good to see. I mean, it's easy to get a little excited about some guys. I mean, and I'll get into it a little bit later, but Aaron Nelson's my guy. And anyone doesn't know, we don't really know each other, but he's been on the show a few times. I can't help but root for a guy like that. And
understood.
That's what this is all about, guys, to have opportunities one way or another. So
understood. That's how I am with Jeremiah Spicer. I mean, he'll be back Sunday after the combine, or the showcase, I'm sorry, to discuss how it went. So that should be a pretty good interview. He's a good one to really, I hope he makes it where he wants, because the man's working.
So with the combine, I mean, I've seen some people, like Michael said, share their invite on social media, and I think they're encouraged to do that, because we all know the promotion and just little by little, right, getting content out there, and it's free to the XFL for them to share that, right? So they probably tell them, hey, go ahead and share it on your social media. I think the interesting thing is going to be during the season, right? Or during training camp when there's, I don't know what the odds are of making a team and getting some playing time, but I'm hoping that, they are able to, hopefully there's a handful of players that will be able to make some rosters and have an impact. And I think it's important for the broadcast to be able to share that story, right?
Agreed.
So to encourage people to continue to come to these things. So I think you're going to see some, a handful of players, make rosters because of that. Because if you're having these showcases and then nobody's getting to a final roster, right? You're really not, it's really not doing the trick. So I think that's going to be the interesting thing in 2024 when we see that, and hopefully the broadcast and hopefully the content will, that's put out by the XFL will share their stories on what they had to go through, kind of like they did with Cole McDonald, right? They kind of showed that one and how he went through the showcase and his story. So that's really where the gold is for the league in these. But this, like I said, though, it definitely builds a fan base and gets things still moving on social media every month, right? You want to have some type of event that's happening that people are promoting.
Yes, sir. Trend something, keep it going. It definitely is necessary. The social media aspect was huge in season. It's tipped off now, because we're off season, but a few more months, it'll be back rolling.
It's a long off season though. It's a lot of content they gotta, keep grinding and crafting to get it out there. So I mean, Mark's right. You just got to keep dropping something, and if players are going to do it for you, potential players, whoever it is going to be, every little bit helps. Obviously, alternative news outlets, whether it's podcasts and whatnot, we all help. But it does come down to the league has got to be very strategic, and they just can't take their eye off the prize, and they got to keep people engaged because there's so much going on in competition, right? We just saw the USFL finish its season, and obviously there's been some words that have gone one way versus another. It's competitive, right? And it's something the league has to keep an eye on. You just can't take anybody for granted because obviously everyone from 2020 did not come back and sit in the seats for 2023. So they got to work, and marketing is going to be part of it, whether it's social media or spending a little bit more money and getting a little crafty at how to stretch those dollars without spending too much.
Well, they'll, I know we're getting a little bit off topic here, but, when it comes to content and the, NFL season coming up, it's going to be interesting to see if those broadcasts mention, Ben DiNucci, played in the XFL and, did this. And especially if it's on Fox or NBC.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be interesting. ESPN will and ABC will put that out there. So it'll be interesting to see that in that regard. And then that also gives the XFL, obviously more content during preseason, during camps. How are these guys doing? Are they making rosters? And then, kind of watching them as the season goes on. So they're building, right? It's a building process. And I hope, they overhauled the marketing department. So hopefully it's going to continue to keep rolling here a little bit.
I think the changes made were necessary, and the changes that they've hired on so far have been good in my opinion. So that's off topic. So I could get on that.
I do that a lot, Matthew. Michael deals with me all the time. I'll go off a topic on a rant. So or I'll have a story. So get ready for it. It's coming, right, Michael?
I enjoy it. It's a good time. I know this is, I don't know how many episodes I've done now, but my third episode in, we did like a 3-hour podcast, and I swore never again. The longest 3 hours of editing of my life.
But isn't that kind of how this just goes?
Yes.
You think it's going to be just quick and easy, and then before you know it takes a life of its own. And then my then fiance, now wife, every once in a while reminds me, she goes, you have a job. This has turned into a full-time job in and of itself. Where's the time for myself? So
totally understand.
No, I get it. It takes a life of its own, so I understand.
Oh, Well, guys, it's been good. Hey, let's talk about real quick the IFL to XFL combine. I know you've heard about that. I'm going to bring it up on the screen.
Yeah, August 4th.
August
Right there in their
4th
championship weekend, yeah.
in Nevada. It should be a good time. Curious to see who attends that. I talked to Cecil last night, or I'm sorry, 2 nights ago. And I mean, he's injured, but I'm sure he would be attending if not.
How bad's his injury?
He hurt his shoulder. He's fixed it. I think he tore his pec, or it was a minor tear. It's nothing major. It should be back rolling. He'll be back going probably July, late July, August, something like that.
Well, might be able to participate if it's August 4th.
Basically, he's looking forward to just doing something. I mean, he's a good guy to talk to as well. If you guys haven't spoke with him,
I had
really
the pleasure.
good.
Yeah, I did. So, yeah, I totally agree. Somebody like him, his story as well is just another one of a player to get behind, just wanting to see him succeed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, yeah, what do you think, guys? Is this going to actually open up some opportunity for some players? I mean, I know they announced this in October, like it says in 2022. I remember, but nothing really came out of the announcement. So this is the first I've really heard of anything. It's pretty good to see it.
Well, I think it has to be good. I think the announcement, whether we got anything out of it initially or not, encouraged players to go the IFL route.
No doubt.
Playing is good, right? So many times we see players that are just stuck into this mindset. It's NFL or bust, or now that's okay, maybe I'll play in the XFL or USFL, CFL, or it's bust. But there are a plethora of leagues now that playing is what's important. Continuing to get coaching. And it doesn't even matter if you're over in the ELF. There's guys that still have ties to coaching in the National Football League for a time or two. That's what's important, is to start to get into what's the next level looking for. IFL, this avenue to play now opens up a combine that maybe you couldn't participate in before. That's what matters. Playing, getting film, getting coaching, and the opportunity to be in front of XFL coaches and talent evaluators. So, I mean, I think this is a huge deal. I'm surprised that other indoor leagues don't have similar things set up. And maybe that's something that the USFL, I know this is an XFL show, but this is opportunity. I mean, there's so many arena leagues, and heck, more are ready to launch here in a little bit with the AFL coming back. So, you know, sky's the limit.
Yeah, I think this goes with their philosophy of not leaving any stone unturned, right? They are going to find the talent that they need to put on the field to put a good product on. And that can come out of indoor, football leagues, the IFL, probably the arena, and the ones that, Michael mentioned here. So I think this helps also promote what, Danny Garcia says a lot about the football ecosystem, right? And helping that whole football ecosystem grow and get opportunities. So I like this. And one of the reasons I like it is because their season runs until the end of July, right? So now it's after the season. It's exclusive to them that are playing in this league. So their film obviously is going to be evaluated. Probably this also helps XFL get game film on the arena and talk to their personnel people and really create that relationship with that. So, and like Michael said, it's another avenue that a player can take, right? Maybe they didn't go to college and, they're a good athlete and somebody sees them out there and they said, hey, come on and try out. So, I'm a little, for instance, my alma mater, where I got my undergraduate degree, Corey Robinson's the head coach of the Green Bay Blizzard, and he went to Lakeland, as well. So, I mean, there's fun to watch people get those opportunities to do that. But I think it fits with what the XFL is saying, and then they're doing it, really creating that football ecosystem and really taking a look at anybody, not anybody, but everybody that is playing, in an alternative league.
I agree. I think Matt's muted.
Matt, are you muted?
Oh, yeah, that was a fudge up. My bad, guys.
It's all good.
Yeah, I was saying the IFL is pretty electric. It's a good time watching it on TV. I mean, on the internet. They actually have a show that they'll play every week, just keeping up with all the games. I thought it was pretty good. Like I said, checking out the stats of some of these guys, they've got some really good stats, especially defensively. I mean, a lot of tackles, a lot of action going on. So I thought it was entertaining.
There's in the indoor league, it's a lot of plays, right? It's fast paced, a lot of plays. And, again, if somebody makes it and contributes, it's a great story. So, I mean, I think this is a good relationship. I'm not, real deep into the indoor leagues, but I think anytime you can take somebody who wants to play professional football and get a little, make a little bit of money on doing it, go ahead and take a look at them.
Yep. Agreed.
I completely agree. I don't watch a whole lot of it, but I do tend to watch the IFL more than the other leagues. And that's not because of the partnership. It just happens to be a bit ironic that they announced something, but it's just how it has been for the past few years. But yeah, I'm not super, invested into it. The thing when I look at statistics, I try to look at it a little bit different because it is a slightly different game. And I don't know how I necessarily correlate how that would transition to back to the outdoor game. But a high performer is typically a high performer. Somebody that's doing well against their peers is somebody that stands out.
Exactly.
And, a quarterback being able to read whatever the situation is. And I know we always go back to the sexy positions. It's what Mark and I always say. It's the sexy position. The offensive side of the ball is always the sexy side of the ball. We get into it, but things like that do translate. I just can't say how it all translates just by looking at statistics.
Understood. I feel like that's just something that's going to have to happen. It may take a few years, but we keep rolling with this spring alternative leagues, and nothing gets shut down. That we'll see that be more evident, and I'm sure people and things will start partnering together. Should be a good time. But guys, anywho, I guess that's all the XFL stuff I want to talk about. Let's talk about you two. I've tried to do a little research on you, and I've listened to some of your old shows, and I've learned a little bit. But I really just want to hear from you two. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a few questions. Just see what you think. Nothing major, nothing bad. First off, I just want to say, like I said, great show you guys have, Player 54 podcast. Been listening for a while. It's part of the reason I got motivated, started doing this myself. So appreciate you guys. Much respect.
Well, I appreciate the kind words. Thank you.
What can you tell me? Let's just start with you, Michael. Then we'll go to Mark. Let's just hear about your backgrounds a little bit. Where'd you come from? What made you get to this point in life where you're pursuing this?
So I live in Florida, but I'm originally from Western New York. So I was a three-sport athlete in high school. We did not have football when I was in high school. So I was a soccer player and eventually went on to play soccer in college. And I captained my team. We won a conference championship, blah, blah, blah. We're not here to talk about soccer. I get it. So, but I was always a sports person, played plenty of sports, continued to play sports, even as, a young man out of college, played in men's leagues, whatever it was. And but my love for the XFL or football in general has always been since my youth. And when I was in college is when the first XFL kicked off, and we were like, wait, we're gonna have football all year round. Everybody was so gravitated towards it, and we can talk about what the first iteration of the XFL was or was not, and everyone has their own opinion. I get it, but we had football, and we even as college students treated it as if every game was the Super Bowl. Somehow we ponied up money for pizza. Of course, there was an adult beverage or two included in there. But, we really got into it one way or another. So, I being from New York and going to school just outside of Syracuse, New York, I decided to follow the Hitmen. So the Hitmen, if you see behind me, I got a couple jerseys here behind me. So that was my team. So ever since then, I was always a football guy. I was a Syracuse University season ticket holder. I loved attending games. I love watching, whether TV, in person, whatever it might be. So fast forward to 2020, hey, the XFL's back. I, as an established adult, I'm buying season tickets. I'm driving 4 hours one way from Syracuse down to, the MetLife. I was going to say the Meadowlands, but, it's MetLife. And, that got ripped out from underneath us. But I was just committed to it. And so that's kind of, SU football, it's a heartbreak. But XFL, I guess that can kind of break your heart. It's here, gone, here. Well, it's back now. So, but yeah, that's my whole love. And, I've been following the league ever since day 1, day 2, and now third iteration.
Here we are.
Go, Mark.
Yes. Yeah. So my stories can be pretty interesting a little bit, I guess. I do reside, in the Chicago suburbs currently, but I grew up an hour south of Green Bay. So I am an avid Packers fan. And, when you live in Wisconsin on Sundays and, Packers Sundays, things shut down and things get slow. So everything is about that game. So we attended a lot of games as a kid, and I really grew to, love the game. Obviously I played through high school, and then I coached for 18 years. I coached youth football. I would work with high school kids during the summer while I did that. And then I decided I wanted to do it, for a living, and spent 9 years coaching at Division III and NAIA level of college football. So I've coached, like I tell Michael, I'm an offensive coach. So I've coached every position on offense. So that's where a lot of our focus is on that sometimes because of that. But one of the reasons, for the love of the XFL was when I was a kid, in the 80s, right, we had the USFL for a couple of years. And I do recall being about, 7, 8 years old and asking my dad, what is this? And I remember Doug Flutie and Herschel Walker and Jim Kelly. So I do remember those games a bit. So when in 2001, when it kicked off, I was like, this is great. However, I wasn't the biggest fan of it in 2001. I think just maybe I wasn't a fan of the production. I heard going to the games was great, but I wasn't maybe as the biggest fan. So when it came back in 2020, and they really were focused on the football, right? It was more about that than it was the, entertainment side of it, I'd say. And they kind of rebranded everything. I watched every single game, and, for the 5 weeks they were, and I've watched them probably 2 or 3 times on YouTube already. I really, really enjoyed the pace of play. I enjoyed the innovations with the microphones and the speakers and the helmets. I think that's great. The kickoff rule, I thought that was great, with some of the leagues struggling sometimes with that being a play. So I thought, in 2020, I was like, maybe I should start a podcast, kind of talking about this. And then, in 2023 here, right before the season started, Michael reached out. So it's been fun. I like the league. I think it's done exactly what they've wanted to do, football ecosystem wise, right? And, they're going to continue to build, and it takes time to build that. And, the negative news that comes out, you got to kind of take it with a grain of salt. There's always going to be people trying to pull things down when you're trying to build things up. So, but yeah, just, love talking about the games, love the players, love talking about the coaches, and I think that's something that sometimes, people kind of don't have that insight of what's maybe going on the sidelines and things like that, or in a locker room or in a meeting room, or, making personnel decisions. So I try to bring that insight, to our podcast and contribute there.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Hey, Michael, I'm going to ask you, what brought about the creation? What actually made you say, hey, I'm going to sit down and make Player 54?
So for years, I always had an interest to get into podcasting. For whatever reason, time was never really right? You got to have time in your life to be able to commit to something. And when 2020, essentially came to a halt, it kind of left, what could have been. And what a lot of us anticipated was the right relaunch. They were set up to be successful, wasn't for the pandemic. So when it was announced that Danny, Dwayne, and Redbird Capital were buying it out, through bankruptcy auction, it started to create a little bit more interest again, and I've always listened to everyone else's shows that existed back then. Unfortunately, a lot of them did not withstand the test of time. I understand there was a big layoff and, things happen in life. But I saw a kind of just a repetitive thing with the shows. They were more similar than they were different. And I know that we are in this niche of football fandom. We need to broaden that niche, that segment of people. And I'm thinking there's a different way of doing this. And maybe my way is not all that much more different than other people think the other ones are. But I'm like, I'm a professional by day. I've had my history in human resources and in the world of safety, where things are dot your I's, cross your T's. You deliver on a certain way, and that's just the way it's got to be. Well, I'm like, I could bring my professional demeanor to a broadcast for somebody that might not want the kind of off the cuff. Everything's a little bit more fun, which is nothing wrong, because I love that, because personally I jive with that as well. But I'm like, let's reach somebody different. Let's make it a little bit more, straightforward, to the point, get them the information. And I meant for it to be 20 minutes, 30 minutes at a time. But as we had previously mentioned, it takes a life of its own. And at first I wasn't going to do interviews. And then the opportunity came with some interviews, and it just kind of took off from there. So, where does it go? I don't know. I never thought I'd be sitting here talking after my 84th episode and people having any interest in anything I had to say or share. But it's interesting in how this just comes about, because my level of commitment gets stronger with everyone that I interact with. And when I had the opportunity before the season came, I realized I had a big, massive void in my show, because I'm not a football player or coach. I've always been a fan, and I had to find somebody. And I kept digging and digging, and I'm like, and I didn't want what everyone thinks somebody should be, because this is player 54, right? The players are the guys that have been castaways, the guys that have been always under the radar, under the stone. And I'm thinking, I just kept going through it, and Mark and I were following each other, and I'm like, you know what? He's exactly who I need. I was a D3 soccer player. He's coached D3, coached NAIA. He understands these players that are trying to get there. I'm not saying there's not Division I players in the XFL. Of course there are. But I'm like, this is the insight I want. Somebody that it clearly wasn't for millions of dollars that Mark was coaching. I'm like, so I reached out, and I don't want to get into too much to take Mark's thunder, but I'm like, Mark, have at it.
Yeah, it was pretty surprising. I've listened to a lot of content, with the XFL podcast, and when I was thinking of maybe starting one, I was like, well, what would be different, right? And it would be to bring more of a different perspective of maybe, what was happening, behind the scenes or during a decision. And, did they make a mistake doing that? Did they not, was it a good fourth down, time to go for it? Or, did they have a little time, or, did they play it conservative, and how you interact on the sideline and how you hold yourself says a lot about, how your team plays and how they deal with things. So it was good to have, insight into that. And, I tell Michael this all the time, and I told him right away when he reached out, I said, I am not an expert. I am an enthusiast, and, I really wanted to do this because I really like the league. I enjoy it. And, I thought, with where they were going, I thought it would be good to get a good perspective with that. So, I'm grateful that he reached out and we kind of worked some things out, and I was able to, kind of do the shows and, asked him if I could take a little bit of a break during the summer here. And, but it's great to do it. And I'm looking forward to, adding more content out there and helping this, this league and these players and these coaches and media people and personnel people, anybody who's working for them, keep this thing going so that we have a, successful spring football league.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, the positive stuff has to keep flowing. I made the decision no more negative unless it's absolutely necessary going forward, especially when we're talking speculation. I mean, so like I said, I respect you guys both because your information is factual, and I mean, you speak of what's happening. So that's why I listen. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
That's very great feedback. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. So guys, like in terms of the show, maybe some stuff you've done in media. I'm not quite sure, but what's the most enjoyable experience you've had? I can't. That's all messed up. Let's not look at that. But what's the most enjoyable experience you've had, Michael? You can start first. I mean, is it the actual podcast? Is it the creating of the content? Is it the editing? Like, what exactly do you enjoy about it?
It's not the editing. Sorry, folks. Anyone that's thinking about doing a podcast, it's not the editing. It's really interesting because what I thought it would be the creation. I thought it would be attention to detail of working on things, that kind of grind. And it's how I am kind of in life. If I see something I want to do, I want to do it to the best of my ability. So I thought that's what it was going to be. But when this took a life of its own, which it really has, connecting with players, and I mentioned Aaron Nelson, and that's what I had a feeling I'd have an opportunity to talk about him a little bit. I literally call him a friend, not just a guest. He's a friend of the show. So I've had the opportunity to have Aaron on a few times, and I would love to have him back on now that it looks like he's participating in the combine. He was selected by the Houston Roughnecks back in the draft. And for those that are not familiar with Aaron at all, he played his collegiate ball at Delaware Valley State. That's Division III. Players have an extremely difficult path moving forward. They just don't have the film, and there's every stigma against them. Everyone wants that Power 5 Division I guy.
Yep.
He, if I remember correctly, when he first came on the show, he shared that he was 120 some pounds when he arrived at Del Val. That as a wide receiver. That's tiny. I don't care what position. Maybe you can get away with that in kicker if it was all leg muscle. But wide receiver, and to see him and his name pop up on that draft by the Roughnecks. And it wasn't in the later rounds, when it was just wide open, they could have, but he actually got picked up in the skills session. I could not help but be extremely excited for him. I mean, it's just to have learned his journey and to see the opportunity ahead that he had to go into training camp. It wasn't even broadcasting at that time. It's just the fact that I was a part of that journey. And I'm not saying I made the difference in him being noticed, because it's his work. He attended the showcases. He did everything he had to do. But just to be a part of it, whatever small part I had, and I can relate being a D3 guy because I know what those facilities look like. And I mean, Mark could tell you the same thing as a coach. It's not the same facilities. You don't have the same meal in strength and condition. They try their best, but I mean, to see where he came from and how he even got up to 180 pounds and bulked up and got noticed, that's what it is. So, and I'm wishing him nothing but the best here, seeing that he got this invite to the combine. I mean, and Aaron, if you're watching, good luck, man. Best of health. And hopefully this time you actually get the opportunity that you deserve.
Great Appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I could see that. I mean, regardless, you're giving him exposure and you're getting to know him as a person. And so far, I've learned that's probably the best thing about this. I mean, even meeting you guys, talking to you more, this is more enjoyable than almost game time to me. Just getting and this talking and hashing it out. And I mean, the more we speak, the better I know you. So, Mark, what do you think? What was your favorite memory or experience? What do you got?
Well, with the show, I would say that it had to be the first episode, because you're always kind of like, do I have enough to talk about? Can I express what I'm going to talk about quickly? And I felt we gave a perspective preseason that I didn't hear anywhere else, really. Going in depth with kind of the where the coaches came from, where the offensive coordinators came from, the style of play that they came from. We talked about the Roughnecks and Danucci and how he was probably going to thrive in June Jones's system, because June Jones just has a way to get quarterbacks to be able to see everything and make those plays. And we talked about AJ and Grakowski and how they were kind of going to, marry, how that, it's a relationship and a marriage almost. And if that doesn't work, it's not going to be very good. And you saw that on some of the teams, right? With it. So, I mean, Brandon Silvers, I said preseason, I thought he was going to have a great season. I think he got derailed a little bit, but he came out of the gates on fire because he was finally in an offensive system that he ran in college, a little bit more of the air raid and a little bit of the run and shoot. So it was good to see that. And so I thought we brought a perspective that really I didn't hear anybody else talking about. And being able to get through that show, right? I mean, it's your first show. You're just trying to, speak clearly and, have enough to talk about. And as Michael found out throughout the season, I'm never short for words. So, I mean, I was able to definitely fill some content there. So, that was a great experience. And then, with the XFL, it was that first weekend. You just felt it a little bit again. You got excited again about it. And I really like, the schedule, the February to April model or May, because of the fact that, it's cold here in February in Chicagoland, so I don't have a lot of things that I'm doing outside other than maybe going to, a kid's basketball game in the morning or not. And then, so I think that fit really well with kind of, where I live and the lifestyle. So it was always great to have a little bit more football on and watch the games and to keep some interest. My sons will always ask, who's playing, and then they'll be like, oh, the St. Louis Battlehawks. And they try to match up the mascot with the team and things like that. So it's been a good ride so far, and hopefully we'll continue it on.
Understood. Yeah, that was when we first started back with 3.0. My girlfriend and I, she's the one that kind of, I was shooting everything off her and she was helping me look things up. And that's what it all started. So I totally understand where you're coming from on that. Well, guys, what about your least favorite? Anything bad? I mean, anything you get, I mean, it doesn't have to be detailed. Anything you feel like, I'll tell you personally with the podcast, I'll enjoy this live stream much better. I feel like I have less errors, but at least I don't have to edit those errors after production, because that's the most difficult part for me. But whatever you guys got, please share.
Well, if my wife watches this, I hope she's not taking this the wrong way.
Uh-oh.
Well, I must say it was the week of our wedding, because I don't know how many people are, really listen to my show or our show, because Mark is a big part of it. I got married this year, and there was a whole lot of juggling things. And the week of the wedding, trying to juggle everything in the lead up to it and recording. Let's just say it was more than a bit challenging and more than a bit hectic. But thankfully, having Mark, his flexibility, it really was a godsend. Just, you have a hotel room, the room's acoustics, the portable microphone. What people don't know is that we brought our dogs with us, and you had to juggle it. It could have been a complete disaster, but being far from ideal, but we were able to get it done. Essentially be professionals and stick with it and get it done. So really, it's what people don't see behind the scenes, especially in a podcast. Videocast, you kind of can see what's happening in recording.
Yes,
But trust me, that's probably the worst moment. But hey, that shows the determination, the grit, the grind that it takes necessary to make this all happen. So, but thankfully, Mark worked with me to make it happen, or else it could have been even worse. We might have missed a deadline.
Yeah. I almost had to do the show solo. I mean, I was ready to. I was ready to Colin Cowherd that show like crazy, but thank God I didn't have to. It's always great to have Michael. I don't think people understand. Michael had to take a couple of trips up to New York State to attend to, number one, his wedding, and then prior to his wedding, a bachelor party, and then some family matters. So his commitment was to the show and making sure that we got something out weekly was very impressive. And we're thankful for that. My least favorite memory, I think it's more of a little bit of a disappointment, and I'm hoping to change it this season, is I need to get to a game. I need to experience, right? Like I need to experience this, in live. And I think, you can get a lot from TV, and I'm used to going to football games. I've coached in games and being out in the weather, and, it starts off in August and it's hot, and, and a lot of Division III, you got artificial turf, the sports turf and things like that. It gets hotter on that. And then all of a sudden it's November and it's raining, snowy and windy, and it might snow. So, I don't miss that part of the football, but, there are some teams that play indoors or in nice weather that, I can make it to. So I'm a little disappointed in that, but, I'm trying to, once the schedule comes out and we understand where they're at, I think hopefully that'll change this year, and I'll get to experience that, because I think that's what I'm missing, and I think that'd be a great thing to be able to talk about.
Yeah, I think I went to a total of 6, maybe 7, because I went to the Southern Divisional Championship as well as the championship. I mean, every game was awesome, very humbling. My first experience, I had tickets. I didn't really expect to get in as media. Ended up working out. And after that, my whole viewpoint from the game has changed. I used to be a coach too prior, nowhere near as amount of experience you have, but middle school, high school coach, probably like a total of 7 or 8 years. But I mean, yes, you need to attend. Next year, hook up with a team, the closest team you can do, and go, because it's a great time. You meet some great people. I networked with so many awesome individuals that those experiences can't be forgotten. So yeah, please attend. Hope to see you at one. We should try to schedule one out where we all meet up. That would be epic.
That'd be awesome.
I want to hit a Battlehawks game. I'm, go big or go home right away, right? And even if I have to sit in the nosebleeds, I will do it. I don't, I can watch a game from anywhere, but I think that would be a great experience. It's probably the closest one to me, but it'd be great to see San Antonio and see the difference a little bit too, when you get a chance to do that. But I hopefully that'll change this year.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, guys, in terms of both of you and the show, I guess, Michael, you can go ahead and start. Any plans for the future? I mean, are we looking at anything for the show, or you personally in terms of XFL?
you always think of what could be next. There's nothing really in motion on it, but everyone's got a video cast, so there's always that possibility. But then it comes down to, for those that don't know, I was not a podcaster, didn't know how to do it. I had to, I'm soft taught on everything, digging into what platforms and software and all that stuff. So now if I want to really get into the video casting thing, that would take some more time, because I just don't, pardon my language, half-ass anything. So
Understood.
But the other thing is, it's a discussion, because guys like Mark might not want to, may want to continue to leave it so we can edit it as much as we want. Like I said, that's not the most exciting part about it, but it does make things a little bit easier, especially if you want to retake a segment. Not that it happens that often, but when you're not live, you do have a little bit more flexibility, I guess.
Yeah, no doubt. This would be the 4th episode live, and everyone's a learning experience. And at the end of the day, sometimes the internet just does not cooperate, or the individual that you're talking to doesn't cooperate. My goal, and I got to quit saying too. That's another goal. My goal is to just get the message across, even if I have to use a phone. So that's what we'll go to. My new spot should have better internet though, so I'm looking up there.
There you
go. But yeah, man, if you need help with anything, let me know. Like I said, this is an experience for me too. But I'll tell you personally, I think this live stream is much easier than the way I was doing it before. Much less time involved. Much more easily organized. So that's just my opinion, though. This is enjoyable as well. I know I didn't have that many people listening and streaming, and now it's kind of blew up. Nothing big, but compared to what it was. So, Mark, what do you think? You got any plans?
Well, Michael keeps asking. Michael keeps asking if I'm gonna, be, contributing again next season. I got to see if I have the time with the family and all, because you got to watch the games, right? And you want to listen to the commentary too. So you can't just watch it on, 2x speed or anything like that, because you want to hear what people are saying and be able to respond to those things. So, I'm hopeful. I really enjoy doing it. And, this is my first live event, so
awesome.
This is new to me, and I kind of like it. I think it's kind of nice, a little bit. The other thing too is Michael's always encouraged me a little bit to put myself out there a little bit, right? And to, get out there on social media a little bit more and talk. And so I think one of the things that would be nice is, obviously, as like I said, going to a game, it'd be nice to share that experience with people. And then also, doing maybe some more, content during the games, what platform that's on, next year, we don't know, when it comes to that. But I think I get a good response during the live games of commenting if I can watch it live, about like either coaching decisions or something that may, happen that could bite them, in the future. So I think that's, for myself, it's just kind of taking those steps a little bit and, looking forward to it though. But I'm looking forward to the season 2 and of 3.0 in 2024 here. So
Same. I understand everything you're saying there as well. I think once you go to the game as media, it's a little different, and you're in this just pool of great individuals who are sharing, and you're talking. I mean, it's just like being in a coaching office almost, very similar, except everyone's there for that team. So
nice.
Guys, that's about wraps it up for me. I mean, anything you guys want to mention or say before socials? Go ahead and throw your channels out, whatever you got.
Go ahead, Mark.
All right. So you can follow me on Twitter, at Mark_Halbach, and then also on Threads at Mark_Halbach. So, look at me branching out.
There you go.
I haven't even branched out the thread yet.
Me either, not yet. I got
Mark
too much
is
else.
already ahead of us. That's awesome, Mark. That's awesome.
Next week he's gonna have his own video. Watch it.
There you go. There you go.
Well, the show is at Player 54 Podcast, and mine handle is at XFL Mike, and that's on Twitter and Instagram. We don't do a whole lot on Instagram, but we're on Facebook as well. You just look us up, Player 54 Podcast. We're not that difficult.
Yeah, I'll have the links in the notes, the description, so they can click that easily.
Appreciate it.
So no problem. Appreciate you guys for coming on. This has been great. Really good conversation, and like I said, we should next season we should definitely plan to meet up somewhere, regardless of where it's at. I don't know, that San Antonio was really nice, that championship game. Just to FYI,
it was a good time.
As a media, you're in the stadium and in it, so it was pretty nice. But anyway, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you creating positive content for the league and just carrying on this message of opportunity and being a player 54.
Well, we appreciate the opportunity. I know, speaking for Mark as well, but it's not every day you get to go on other shows. I know I've been on a few other, but it's always a pleasure. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Matt, for reaching out and having us. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you guys very much. Look forward to speaking with you more and collaborating some in the future.
All right. Until next time.
Until next time, fellas. Have a great night.
You as well.
You too now.
Hey, I want to say big thanks to XFL Board as well as the XFL and Ambush Sports. So appreciate all those channels. Thank you, guys. Good night.